Hi, I'm Valerie Powers-Smith, partner at SBNP Attorneys. We are proud to be the title sponsor of the Palm Springs Life and Coachella Valley Economic Partnership series, The Economic Future of the Coachella Valley. Our firm is a full-service civil law firm with offices in Palm Springs, Orange County, San Diego, New Jersey, and New York. At SBNP, we care about our community and our citizens here in the Coachella Valley. That's why we feel strongly about leading the conversation about our economic future. Today, we launched this 9-part series, each focusing on a different sector of the economy. With that, I welcome today's moderator, Joe Wallace, CEO and Chief Innovation Officer of the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership.
Hello, and welcome to the economic future of the Coachella Valley. Today, we're discussing the tourism and hospitality industries. We'll start with a conversation with Scott White, the CEO of the Greater Palm Springs Convention and Visitors Bureau. Then we'll have a conversation with Kelly Steward, General Manager of the Ritz-Carlton Rancho Mirage, followed by Allen Monroe, the Chief Executive Officer at the Living Desert. Hi, Scott. Thank you for joining us.
Joe, it's great to be with you.
We got a lot to discuss, so let's get going. COVID-19 has hit the tourism industry harder than any other. Hawaii, Las Vegas, and the Coachella Valley seem to have taken the biggest financial hits in the nation. What are the latest projections from industry analysts on when tourism will completely recover?
So when you look at the national forecast, tourism is really scheduled to recover late 2023 into 2024. However, destinations like ours could be much longer than that. Certainly there's lots of different variables that are involved in the recovery of our industry, and air service, group, and all of that are going to play critical roles to our recovery. If you look today at our forecast for the rest of this year for 2020, we're estimating $3.1 billion lost to the local economy, and 22,000 industry-related jobs are going to be gone. So the question is going to become is how long will it take to recover that lost economic impact and the number of jobs?
So the biggest hit to our region is group business, conventions, trade shows, these sort of things. How bad are those particular things hit, and can you forecast what might happen in the next year to 5 years with those?
So the group business does represent about 60% of our business. Obviously, the larger resorts, those with meeting space, are much more dependent on that type of business. We've taken a significant hit. We're losing probably 90% to 100% of the business throughout the end of the year. Clearly, as we have no direction from the state when groups will be allowed to meet, meeting professionals and that industry have to plan well in advance to their attendees and to plan effectively. We're starting to see lost business into the first quarter and second quarter of 2021. So if we don't get clear direction when we'll be able to open back up for group business, even if it's on a small scale, it's going to be devastating for our economy and for our industry, not only for the rest of 2020, but well into 2021.
Scott, are there any cities in the country that are doing a good job at opening up for group gatherings?
There's quite a few that have had some great success in the recent months. Indianapolis, for example, in the last 40 days, they've hosted successfully and safely 18 events. 11 of those were inside of their convention center and entailed over 40,000 people. They've got a great strategy in place. Any groups with over 250 people must be presented to the health department for approval on what their plan is on how they can effectively social distance, wear a mask, and the flow of attendees throughout the event. So we know that it can be done. It's nice to see that there are other destinations that are effectively holding these meetings. And hopefully now our state, our county, and our region can apply the same metrics and the same protocols in place to successfully have meetings in the future.
That sounds great. I've been there many times, and I've been in that facility where you're talking about many times. It's nice, but you know what? Our facilities stand up very well for small places.
Especially in the future months coming. I wouldn't want to be in Indianapolis this winter. So I think if we can get open in time for the winter months, we're going to bode well for our group business, but we got to do it soon.
Given the dependence on large gatherings to bring in billions of dollars in the spring, what are the long-term prospects for events like the Coachella Fest, Stagecoach, and the BNP Parabot tennis tournament?
That's a very difficult one to speculate on. I mean, there's so many unknown and so many unknown variables going forward. Clearly, we're seeing on the sporting event side, a lot of the events are taking place without spectators. So our hope is that by the time the BNP comes around in March, that there will be some guidance and ability to have spectators. At what level, we won't know. Probably the biggest and most difficult is going to be the music festivals, not only for us, but around the state and the country. So I think it's going to be a wait and see situation. But if we don't have those types of events next year, it's going to be also devastating. So hopefully we can get them, if not at a partial capacity, at some type of capacity, we can move forward with bringing back our events. We look forward to hopefully some positive news in the next few months.
That'd be great. I'm going to be going back to the middle of America for a couple of weeks, and I'm hoping to go to a college football game where University of Louisville has been cleared for 19,000 people in a 63,000 seat stadium. Maybe if they're successful and it's documented, it'll help with our efforts here. So before the pandemic, the CVB was working toward objectives laid out in the Destination Development Plan. Can you talk about what the plan was and is, and what elements can reasonably be continued to pursue?
Absolutely. Our Destination Development Plan, we started that about 5-6 years ago, and it was clear tourism is the number one economy for our destination, but we knew that we had to diversify our economy, and in order to do that, there were other components within the valley that needed to be successful. Transportation, for example, is a good example. Air service, train service, access into the valley is important. So we really took an active role in working with the airport on how do we advocate for better air service into the destination, getting flights from New York, Atlanta, Chicago, all the major hubs. Today, Southwest Airlines announced they're going to begin service to our destination this fall. We don't know what cities yet. We've been working on the airport with that for the last 5 years. So that's a good example of destination development. We've also been working with our cities in our region on really trying to attract more events and helping our attractions grow. I think another good example is the Ironman event that takes place in December. That was a great collaboration between La Quinta, Indian Wells, and the CVB. And having that collaboration amongst the cities and your tourism entities to attract events that have the right brand alignment, that really line up with our pillars, which is health and wellness, arts and culture, outdoor adventure, is really going to be something that will be able to sustain us. So it's all about really, again, that collaboration, working together to have events or attractions or demand drivers that are going to be here every single year. Groups are great and they're critical, but every single group we have to go out and bid on every single time, and we're competing against places like Arizona and Vegas and San Diego and so forth. When you get attractions that come full time or events that are here every year, that becomes an opportunity for us to build a relationship with that entity. It helps us invest dollars in the long term, and it provides a regular source of income for our destination. And so that's really kind of the crux of the Destination Development Plan. Our goal was, when we came out of the recession, it took 7 years for our destination to recover. We were one of the fastest to go into the recession, and we were one of the longest to come out of it. And the Destination Development Plan is really trying to design it to where when another recession happens, that we can recover much quicker and help our businesses become much more successful in a faster time frame than take as long as it did in the past.
Well, we're going to find out how that works, aren't we? Right. So before COVID-19 hit, CVEP, the CVB, we were working together to try and put a plan to attract telecommuters and possibly businesses to the region to stimulate more business travel. Is that still something that has potential with all of the remote working tools that have become available?
I do. I think it's even more appetizing now than it has been in the past. We're seeing that a lot of individuals that are in the Bay Area, San Francisco, LA, Seattle, even in Portland, are relocating because now they can work remotely. They've been given the green light that remote working is accepted, and it's actually going to be encouraged or even mandated by some of these tech firms. And they're looking around for opportunities where they can call a permanent home. And you think about it, we're a great proximity to those destinations. We've got great air service into the Bay Area and to the Northwest as well. It's a great quality of life here. And I think that's the role that tourism can play, providing those amenities and that quality of life. And that's why it's so important to recover tourism as fast as we possibly can, because that really impacts the experience that both our visitors have, our residents have, and it's going to be more attractive for those telecommuters to come here and raise their family, enjoy the experiences, and have quick, easy access to major destinations, not only regionally, but also nationally. Having flights, nonstop flight, for example, to New York and Atlanta can get you just about anywhere in the world. So these individuals who may have to travel to Asia or Europe or South America are going to have that opportunity, and they can justify it to their corporations that Palm Springs is the right place for them to remote work. And I know all of your hard work on trying to get better bandwidth here. That collaboration together is going to certainly, I think, bode well for us long term.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're sitting in a very good place to upgrade our workforce by attracting telecommuters that are educated, that have high earning capacity already, and they're working for the big name companies that are often headquartered in the Bay Area. So how do we go out and market Greater Palm Springs as a safe destination? One that the accommodations, the restaurants, the retailers, the attractions, the arts, and the entertainment venues enforce all safety protocols to curb the spread of coronavirus or some other virus that comes along in the future.
Certainly. Yeah, in the tourism world, one of the top attributes of a destination is how safe is it? And this was prior to pandemic. It was really about the safety of the individual from any type of threat, crime, and so forth. And we've always really ranked very high on that level. Today's safety question is more about, obviously, related to the pandemic. And early on, we worked with our restaurants, our hotels, the attractions, all of our partners to make a commitment. We call it the Safer Together, Greater Together Pledge. And it's committing to the guidances that are being outlined by the state of California, the county, and the CDC. It's training their employees. It's adhering to the latest best practices. And we're marketing that pledge. We've got over 400 businesses today that have taken the pledge that are making that commitment, and it's growing every single day. So our advertising that we're doing right now is really educating and telling the traveler that our businesses are safe. When you come here, we're expected to wear a mask. And prior to the state mandating it, we were obviously having a lot of our communities mandate a mask, and we were doing that early on as well. And then Visit California has a travel responsibility code, and we're promoting that. So as a traveler coming into the destination, we want to make sure we're educating them about their responsibility as a visitor to our destination and respecting the rules and regulations that we have. So we're commuting the fact that we have all of this in place and it's all in their best interest. In addition, at the same time, we're trying to be inspirational a little bit, the fact that we have wide open spaces and there's a lot of things that you can do outdoors. And certainly one of the top attractions is our pools and our resort amenities and all the different things that you can do. So it's really kind of a melding of that inspirational message, the things that you can do here outside, plus with the fact that we take their safety very seriously. And that's really becoming a value-added opportunity for those travelers that they're looking for that. They respect that and they want that.
Wonderful. So now that the pandemic is here, I've listened to you talk about how many people in our drive market. How have you changed your marketing to go after people that would drive here as opposed to ones who have to fly?
Yeah, so we've definitely increased our drive market. Not only what we're seeing from the drive markets, we're typically 250 miles or less. People are driving further. So we've expanded our drive marketing campaign to well over 1,000 miles. There's good data that we're getting that shows people will drive 1,000 to 1,200 miles to get to their final destination along the way. So we've expanded that, and we've also expanded the time frame. Typically, we start to wind down on our drive market as we come out of summer. We start to focus on the fly markets. Now we're going to continue those drive markets in those expanded cities throughout the end of the year and probably into the first quarter. Although we will start our fly market marketing, maybe not the same scale as we did last year, but we will target key markets like Seattle, Portland, Vancouver, the Canadian Western provinces as we get into the winter months and so forth. Because we feel like there's still going to be a strong demand. The airlines have done a really good job, and that continues to improve in terms of the flying conditions, the flying experience. And if you look at the TSA numbers every week, they're growing considerably. So that tells me that people are traveling via the airlines. I think we'll see more of that, especially as we get into the wintertime. So that's a little bit of a snapshot of how we've changed our marketing efforts.
Yeah, in our drive market, even 4 hours, we did a GPS study on it. And there's like 40 million people within 4 hours of here. So if you're getting out to 1,000 miles, you're getting to 60, 70 million population.
Yeah, and we're being very targeted. Obviously, it's not a shotgun approach. We look at, do they typically travel in the past? I mean, you can get so much data now through the systems that we can really target on social media, digitally through Expedia and TripAdvisor and all these different platforms on the type of visitor that we really want to be able to target that we think would be conducive to our destination. So it's been very, 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 very interesting to learn about what people are looking for and their sentiment about destinations. And our destination, the Coachella Valley, really ranks really high. We've got a lot of great press about the destination. And again, it's an island oasis. I feel like we're a little bit of an island sheltered from all of the craziness that happens in Southern California between LA and Orange County and San Francisco and so forth. And people are looking for that escape, for a resort type of experience. And we want to make sure everybody understands that we're open for business and what's available for them.
Yeah, that island effect is, it's positive for visitors and for folks like you and I that live here all the time. So it's great.
We're very lucky.
What are the glimmers of hope and opportunity in the tourism industry that the CVB can leverage to bring our largest economic sector back to the vibrancy that it had before?
I think there's different variables on that. Air service is going to be, I think, a key component in that. We've had some great discussions with the airlines. In addition to Southwest being announced today, Allegiant announced Eugene and Boise starting in November. We're having conversations with some of the other airlines. If you think about it, they've got equipment and they've got personnel that historically would be traveling to the international markets, Mexico, Europe, South America, and they don't see those coming back online for some time. So the airlines are looking, where is the leisure demand going to take place? And so I think that's going to be the silver lining. It's going to expose us to these new routes that will possibly happen this fall and this winter, which is going to generate greater demand. I think the remote worker is going to be another added benefit, which will be a silver lining to helping us develop the data that airlines want to be year-round. Our number one goal is that we want our air service to be year-round, especially the key hubs like Chicago, New York, Atlanta, more frequency to Dallas, and so forth. So that's an important goal for us, and I think this opportunity to have that relationship with them, to show them the marketing that we can do, also show them that the visitors that are coming here are now starting to work remotely here, to have that data and be able to communicate that to the airlines is going to really help us bolster our case to have greater service and more year-round service as well.
Sounds great. I'm really looking forward to watching it happen and enjoying more travel myself once we can start doing it again. Scott, I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you for your perspective on what is the key industry in the Coachella Valley. They cannot take our sunshine away and they cannot take our weather away. We'll be back and we'll be back strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it very much.
Kelly, you manage one of the most widely recognized and admired hospitality brands on the planet. Even if you can't go there to sleep, you want to go there to drink. And it doesn't matter if you're in Hawaii or Paris or whatever, the Ritz is the place to be. Did that recognition soften the blow that the tourism industry has suffered, or did the falling tide lower all the boats equally?
Well, Joe, I'm glad you asked that question because I really think all of us in the hospitality industry have been impacted and we all had to find new ways of evolving our business. A big blow to us is the fact that we are not able to have groups and some of the restrictions that are happening. But it's up to all of us in the industry to find very creative and challenging ourselves to think outside of that box, to really serve our guests and to serve the public. At the end of the day, we all want to ensure that our guests are pampered in a Ritz-Carlton way, in a new safe way of doing business.
Sounds great. That word groups, I've been speaking with Scott White and he talks about groups a lot. Groups are the lifeblood of the industry out here. And
they are.
Yeah. So absolutely. I now want to see them back as soon as possible. So the Ritz has very stringent customer service standards and you've got great protocols. How are you retraining your resort staff to service the visitors in COVID time?
Well, I have a very, very passionate leadership style. And I will tell you that one thing when we were going through all of this that I wanted to do is to have our ladies and gentlemen come in and hear from me and understand all protocols. They could ask any questions. They could ask, any standards. They could be vulnerable with me. They could absolutely share any of their thoughts with me. And so I actually am with them for 5 hours for a reorientation, a welcome back to our resort. And I believe in the philosophy of tell, show, do, and review. And so we have a commitment to clean. We also talk about our philosophy and what we're to do in delivering exceptional, detailed service for our guest. And so just yesterday, I welcomed back and reoriented 18 ladies and gentlemen. And we are so excited. I have 148 ladies and gentlemen on this property as of today, and we are ready to rock and roll for Labor Day weekend. But it is so important they understand the cleanliness protocols and reorienting them, using their muscle memory again about what we're here to do in delivering legendary, gracious service.
So you call them ladies and gentlemen. I really love that. And there are elementary schools that have instituted those terms, ladies and gentlemen, instead of children or boys and girls. And they respond in acting like ladies and gentlemen. And I think that's something society may have lost a little bit of now. So 3 thumbs up for you guys for introducing that into the lexicon of your business.
Thank you very much.
It's great. I really like it. So what are your biggest challenges to fully reopen 100% and then start accepting guests that way? Physical challenges, other challenges to be safe, and safety isn't really enough. Safety has to be in the mind of your customers and your ladies and gentlemen.
You're absolutely right. And so to ensure, I think, all ladies and gentlemen and our guests are following all the proper protocols, standards, cleanliness procedures, and those expectations. And there are very, very high expectations, not only when you come to the Ritz-Carlton Rancho Mirage, but to any hotel or any business, that the companies and the businesses have been very thoughtful about thinking about how am I going to serve the general public? How am I going to take care of our guests? And so it's interesting what we are doing. And I'll tell you what, we've thought a lot about it with my director of sales and marketing. We're very thoughtful about not just having a sign that says wear a mask, but how are we having artful detail? How are we really making sure that the guest feels comfortable and not such a sterile environment with signage? But then it's also about wearing our masks. How are we thoughtful in having a serving tray that offers the guests the mask should they forget their mask? It's all in our tone, it's all in our voice, it's all in the genuine care, and we're welcoming them into our business, into the Ritz-Carlton Rancho Mirage, and we have to be hospitality stewards to make sure that they feel that, they see it. It's the theater of cleanliness, actually doing the cleanliness, but having that theater, having someone posted in our lobby, and our guests seeing the fact that we are cleaning all door and surfaces, all handrails, all elevator buttons, that we're walking all of the areas to make sure there is no waste or trash receptacles that are overflowing. We've got to make sure that everything is clean. When our ladies and gentlemen come into our resort, we take our temperatures of all of our employees, all of the contractors, all of the vendors. That's providing them with a safe environment. The mask being worn. I will tell you, I think I've cleaned out all the sanitizing dispensers there are in the world. We have them in the front of the house. We have them in the heart of the house, meaning in the heart of the house, that is the heartbeat and the soul of where we operate with our ladies and gentlemen. And in the front of the house, meaning where the guest experience is. It's really about having everything. We've even been so thoughtful about having it's like a simple human waste receptacle where the guest or our ladies and gentlemen can touch with their foot the waste receptacle, the lid comes up, and they certainly can dispose of their mask. And we will be happy to refresh and give them a new one as well. So it's all those little thoughtful things that we're doing. And then the training is paramount to make sure the ladies and gentlemen hear from senior leadership executive leadership that this is how we will do in this environment. Making sure, I just got today and I'm so excited, 2 electrostatic sprayers. That's where a chemical as well as an electrostatic charge can be disseminated, and we can really make sure that this virus is killed and all germs in its way. So we're super excited about those things.
Wonderful. Did you make up that term, a hospitality steward? Because I think you are the best one ever.
Well, thank you. It just happens to be my last name, but I think why not, right?
That's perfect. So is there any new construction, any upgrades, things like that you'll be unveiling as these new guests come in?
So as we all started to experience this from March and April and May, one of the biggest questions that I had in the pit of my stomach and in my heart, and I know my leadership team had the same, was about, are we going to, we were about to launch into a rooms renovation. We were actually designing the rooms of the future for the Ritz-Carlton Rancho Mirage. And so we had to put that on pause right now. And so I was brave enough to ask our ownership, and I have amazing owners who are really fantastic to work with. And we are putting it on pause, but we are hoping by the end of this year, we will be redoing and remastering and definitely bringing into fold again this concept of having our model rooms of the future, the showrooms, and then looking at 2021, probably with all permits and everything that goes in with the re-enhancement of our resort, that remaster project would be started sometime in 2021. We also are looking at new guest rooms, adding more guest rooms, another ballroom, and then an outdoor event space which overlooks the entire Coachella Valley and definitely has a pool experience with it. So we are very optimistic, very hopeful, and the ownership in our company considers the Ritz-Carlton Rancho Mirage a jewel in their crown. And so we want to make them proud, we want to make our guests proud, and we're excited about the future of what we'll bring.
Well, I'm excited to come up and see what you've done once you're letting locals come up there and look at things.
You can come up. Locals are welcome.
Have a dinner and a drink.
But make a reservation, please.
I will. That's it. It'll be great. Well, thank you very much for joining today, and we'll check back with you in a little bit and then continue the discussion.
Thank you.
Allen, let's talk about the living desert.
Hi, Joe. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. You know, the day I heard you guys had to close, the first thing I did is I went online and I made a donation. And I hope I helped. And
well, I certainly appreciate that.
Yeah. So how are things going over there? The animals doing well, or
They are. Although closing the park was certainly the right thing to do from a public health and safety perspective, it really couldn't have come at a worse time for us. The spring is our busiest season, and we are well on our way to another record-setting year of attendance. And about 75% of our operating budget comes from gate-generated revenue. So we knew that any sort of lengthy closure would have a really significant impact on our operations. So we put in place our contingency plans. We pulled our belt as tight as we could to reduce spending, which unfortunately included, laying off a substantial portion of our staff. And then we immediately started thinking about what would it take to safely reopen. And so we've been open now for 3 months since we received the state and county approval for how to safely do so. And of course, we have all the usual COVID safety precautions in place. Summer is our slowest time of the year, obviously because of the heat and our outdoor activities. But I've actually been really surprised that attendance is running pretty high so far this year. We're about 95% of what we were for last year. So that exceeds our hopes when we started this budget planning process for what we're able to accomplish. And of course, it's one of the few area attractions that are open right now. We have a lot of local residents that are looking to get out of their house and trying to find something that they can do safely for a few hours of enjoyment. But of course, the real question in my mind is, what does the future of tourism look like here in the Valley, especially this fall? And will the tourists come back? And if so, what numbers? We're really not out of the woods yet, and we're kind of anticipating it will take at least a year until things start to get back to normal for us.
Well, if you're at 95% revenue and you're in the tourism industry, I'm pretty sure that's a better number than most.
We're really proud that we've been able to reach out to the community and offer this kind of safe outdoor recreation that I think so many people are looking for right now.
Well, I think that's a testament to how much that the communities of the Coachella Valley value the living desert as, it's our zoo and it's spectacular. So it's the 50th anniversary at the Living Desert and you have new exhibits. Tell me about the new exhibits that you have and what you might have in your back pocket ready to put out there.
Yeah, well, 2020 will certainly be a year to remember. We're in the midst of celebrating our 50th anniversary, which is really great to think about a nonprofit like the Living Desert has been here in the Coachella Valley for that long and been able to maintain our mission and grow and be such a great resource. And we're always working on ways to improve the guest experience. So for the last 2 years, we've been designing and building a new experience for our guests called Australian Adventures. We want to help showcase some of those amazing animals from the land down under. It was scheduled to open up on March 21st, and we unfortunately had to close on March 17th. And so, when you throw a party and you get that nobody comes feeling, well, we had to tell the Wallabies that it wasn't personal for them, that there are other things going on, and so we had to put that opening on hold. So when guests come to the park right now, we've got this new wonderful experience for them where they get to go to Australian Adventures and interact and be in the same habitat with our wallabies and other animals from Australia. We broke down the barriers between the guests and the animals. So you're actually walking into the Australian outback, and the wallabies have free roam. They can go wherever they want to in this habitat. We ask the guests to stay on the pathway, but there could easily be a wallaby hiking down the sidewalk with you and your family as you're coming into the space. So we think it's a great opportunity to have this new immersive experience to welcome guests back and to showcase some of the new amazing animals from the deserts of Australia. So that's open right now, and guests are experiencing that and having a wonderful time. We're also working on things for the future. Kelly mentioned about her plans for expansion and improvement within their facility. We're doing the same thing, although we've decided to proceed with our project. We started construction last month on a new project to help us tell the conservation story of endangered African black rhinos. And so last month we broke ground on our savanna habitat, where the goal is to bring in the fall of 2021, a new breeding pair of African black rhinos, as well as other species of antelopes, some birds, some pelicans, vultures, and even the naked mole rat to tell a whole nother story about the amazing animals from the desert habitats of Australia. And so we're looking forward to having something, once we get through this next year of COVID kind of issues, to have a new experience for our guests to come back and see and enjoy when they come back to the park for a second time.
I'm either father or stepfather to 6 children, so I'm very familiar with mall rats, but not so much mole rats. So I'll have to come over and have a look at the mole rat.
Well, they're an amazing animal. They live in underground burrows, and they are a matriarchal society. There is a queen, and she's the one who's in charge and does all of the breeding. Everybody else takes care of the queen. And so they are about 6 to 8 inches long, and because they live underground, there's no need to have hair. So they are literally hairless mole rats that scurry back and forth through these underground caverns. We've got a really unique way of being able to showcase those for our guests and let them see what's happening hidden underneath the dirt.
I'll have to come take a look at that. So with zoos, are there unique things that you have to do with the zoo with respect to the pandemic response and the path out after the pandemic?
Absolutely. One of the really unique things about zoos, especially as compared to other businesses, is, we just can't turn off the lights, lock the door, and walk away until things get better. We've got a commitment to always provide the best possible animal care that we can. So that means that our veterinarians, our nutritionists, our animal care staff, and even our maintenance staff are all working here no matter what to make sure that the animals' needs are met. So even with just our minimum core staff necessary for basic business functions, and then all of our animal care staff, it costs about $22,000 a day in fixed cost for that level of care. And so that burn rate is why it's so important that we were able to work with both the county and the state health officials to advocate for a plan to allow zoos to safely reopen as soon as possible. And then the other thing that's unique about the Living Desert, especially compared to many other zoos across the country, is that we don't receive any kind of ongoing municipal or county tax support. We're a true 501c3 nonprofit. And so we have to earn our money the old-fashioned way. We have to earn it by offering guests a great experience and provide the level of customer service that will make them come back. And so for us to be successful, we have to be able to offer an experience that people both enjoy and they value. And so I always take a long-term view to our strategic planning. And right now, I'm really worried about two different things. One is the depth of the recession. Are people going to have discretionary income and wanting to be able to go and do things like visit the living desert, to go to shopping malls and things like that? And then also, what is the long-term impact on this COVID-19 going to have on tourism travel? It seems possible that there might be a vaccine available here, certainly by the spring of 2021. That right now the experts are telling it's going to take anywhere between 6 and 9 months to manufacture and vaccinate a large percent of the population. So I really think our path out of this is to have the government manage the economy so there's a quick financial recovery. And then we can manage our cash flows very carefully for the next 14 months and hope that we can get to the fall of 2021 where things can start to return back to normal.
So speaking of COVID, do your animals have to be tested? Are they carriers?
Well, that's one of the challenges of this COVID-19 virus is that it's new to science and there's so much about its method of transmission and infection rates and things like that we really don't know. Questions like, can it affect other species besides just people? Can humans catch it from animals? Can animals give it to people? So what we did when we first were realizing this was going to be a problem, is we went to the scientific literature and we looked for similar species of viruses and what their infection rates were and what animals they infected. And so we worked with our veterinary staff to develop protective measures for our staff to wear protective personal gear, especially when dealing with certain species under our care, particularly the carnivores, which seem to be one of the few groups, things like lions and tigers and some of the big cats, that have at least some possibility of catching COVID. There was a report early on from one zoo up in the Northeast where their lions and tigers came down with respiratory symptoms of COVID, a little bit of huffing and wheezing and some coughing. Those animals were tested and they did come back positive, but the animals recovered quickly without other sorts of incidents. In our case, we monitor our animals obviously every day very carefully. We've never seen any kinds of signs of them having respiratory issues, and so they have not yet had a need to be tested. But we're keeping a close pulse on their health needs to make sure we can stay ahead of any of that.
So what physical changes have you made to assure safety for the guests that are coming back in?
Well, we developed a very robust COVID protection plan that helps make sure that our staff, our guests, our volunteers, and of course our animals can be as safe as possible under this current situation. And so we put in place a number of the features that you see at other businesses now, and then some that are more specific to us. The first is that we put in place a time ticketing reservation system so we can help manage the number of people that come to the park in any given period of time. We've got 80 acres of outdoor hiking trails and nature gardens and these wonderful animal habitats. We've got lots of space. We want to make sure that people don't get here all at the same time, like very early in the morning when it's still cool outside. And we make sure they don't cluster together in any particular places within the park. They're always spread apart. So we've gone to using this time ticketing so you can go online to our website and reserve and within an hour time frame of when you're going to be coming here to the Living Desert. You'll know that there aren't, thousands of other people that are trying to arrive at the very same time. We've also put in place a one-way path within the park. In the past, it's sort of been a free wander. You could go whenever you wanted. You could backtrack and circle back around to see your favorite animals again. But out of a sense of caution, we've put in place this one-way path, and we have the path neatly marked with these blue arrows so that we're encouraging all of our guests to go in the same general direction so they don't come across each other in a close quarters, and just make sure we can maintain that sort of social distancing. And then as Kathy mentioned there, in terms of the Kelly's rather, in terms of the cleaning efforts that were going on, as we are cleaning every possible surface where anyone can touch as often as we can throughout the day. And we've got those same electrostatic sprayers for the disinfectant. They're a miracle that it provides an electrical charge onto those particles of the cleansing, and you can easily spray and mist surfaces down and know that you're getting every possible surface taken care of to make sure that you are doing everything you can to give the guests a very positive experience when they come to the park. The other thing we're doing is we also are requiring not only our guests, but also our staff and our volunteers to wear a mask at all time while they're in the park. Even though we're an outdoor location and there's great air circulation, we think it's in the best interest of everyone to go ahead and wear a mask while you're here, to show that sign of respect for each other and for the guests and for the staff and volunteers, that you're taking seriously this effort to minimize the possibility of anyone getting sick from visiting a location such as the Living Desert.
That's wonderful. Historically, your customers, how many of them are tourists from other places, and how many of them are folks like me that go up every time the grandkids come to town?
Well, it depends a little bit upon the season. Obviously, in the fall and early spring, we get an influx of tourists, and then the snowbirds that come down, and so our out-of-valley residents come more to the Living Desert more often during that time. In the summer, we often get much more local residents that come to us because they buy that family membership. They know they can come to Living Desert as often as they want at their convenience, just pop in for a few minutes and see their favorite animal, or spend the morning when they're coming here. But we have been looking at some statistics about our visitation, especially over this first 3 months that we've been open. You know, we get zip code analysis of our visitors so we can help track where they come from. And so in August of last year, of 2019, we had visitors come from 40 different states during that 1 month. Here for August of 2020, that number has dropped down in half, visitors from only 20 states. So we're clearly seeing a reduction in the number of visitors from long distances coming to our valley and then coming to the Living Desert.
All right, so you have a significant ability to tap the philanthropic community. Has COVID helped that? Has it hurt that? Has it made no difference at all? You get a lot of donations.
We do, and we've been very blessed over the last 50 years to develop a relationship with so many of the Coachella Valley residents that recognize Living Desert, is a great organization and a great resource to have here in the valley, and they help support that in all different ways, from adopting animals that we have here at the park, sending us donations for our annual appeal, and then also things like capital expansion programs that we have. As soon as we saw how serious the COVID-19 was going to be, and that we were going to have to shut our gates and therefore lose 100% of our revenue, again, that makes up about 75% of our budget, we reached out immediately to our supporters in the valley with a program we called Mission Animal Care. Because we got questions early on from visitors, and people were calling us up on the phone and say, what about the animals? Are you still going to take care of them? Are you shipping them off someplace? Are you taking care of them properly? We wanted to make sure we could communicate with everybody that the animals were getting, as they always will, the best possible care. But Mission Animal Care helped communicate that, and then helped local supporters find a way to help us with that. And so we got donations large and small, and they also came with messages about how impactful a visit to the Living Desert had been when they were a kid, when they brought their kids here, or now they've got grandchildren, they're bringing their whole extended families back to the Living Desert, and that they wanted to make sure that we were going to be able to provide that opportunity for future generations. And those messages were very heartfelt. One in particular I saw was from an individual who said that this donation, he kind of apologized because it was so small, but he said this was the best he could do now because he had also been just laid off, and this was the extent of his resources. And so when we're able to connect with our community and get that kind of support, even for people that are having their own issues, I know that we're able to be an important member of the Coachella Valley here.
How many people do you employ?
It depends on the time of year and obviously certain our business situation. In pre-COVID times, so in the early part of this spring, we had about 150 permanent and a few part-time and seasonal employees. We're down right now to about 80. And we're hoping that as the season continues and start getting back into the fall, and fingers crossed, tourists start coming back, we'll be able to hire back more of those staff and help provide that level of customer service and education that they expect when they visit our park.
Wonderful. So last question, are zoos going to come out of this better and stronger than ever?
I certainly think so. And I know the Living Desert is going to. We have contingency plans for all kinds of crises, whether it was weather or, a staff or a guest injury, but we never had to put in place any plans for a pandemic. Now that we've done that, we think we are more prepared than ever to face the challenges coming up in the future, whether they be health challenges, financial challenges, or just how we can make sure that we're always providing an experience that our guests are appreciative of and are looking forward to coming and enjoying each year.
All right, well, that's great. And I thank you for joining us today. And let me bring Kelly back on now and see what she would like to say as a kind of a closing statement on the industry, her business.
Joe, here's what I think. I think we have to persevere. We have to have positive and strength leadership, and we have to guide all of our ladies and gentlemen. We have to guide our guests and making sure that all feel safe coming to this great valley, the Greater Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley. We have a lot to offer here, and there's dynamic experiences, not only just in hotels, but in every aspect in the activities. And just like Allen said, the Living Desert is an amazing experience, and that's just one of many here. But we want to really open up to the world and make sure that everyone knows that we are here, we are safe, wear your mask, we're here to protect, and let's do this together and support one another is the biggest thing we can do. And making sure it's a healthy, clean, and safe environment in anywhere you go here in the Greater Palm Springs area.
So, Allen, any final words from you?
Well, I agree with everything Kelly said. I think by the business community working together and providing a clean message to our guests about the importance of COVID safety protection, that we can make them know that it's safe to go out again and do things like go to our resorts, visit our attractions, go to restaurants. But I think by making sure that we're all working together, we'll be able to come out of this a stronger community and be Coachella Valley strong.
Well, I'm glad to hear that out of both of you. It's important that leaders remain optimistic and realistic and chart the course for the future and get our ladies and gentlemen, the customers, get everybody on board so we can come out of this much better. So on behalf of Palm Springs Life and the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership, thank you for watching, and please send us your feedback. We'll be back with you next week. Thank you to Allen. Thank you to Kelly.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, Joe.